outside Westminster Magistrates Court. There's two cases going on here today. I mean, one is the case of Fiona Hyde, who was a freedom protester, and she was arrested outside Parliament a few months ago on charges that I think are wholly trumped up and unjust and unlawful due to the Coronavirus Act. She was basically a speaker and an organiser, I think, of one of the freedom rallies in Trafalgar Square, but then was harassed and intimidated by the Metropolitan Police very, very badly, and now she's in court for that, and I'm here to support her and to see what happens and see what the judgment is. Also going on today is the CPS trying to keep Julian Assange in Belmarsh prison for another 28 days on remand. Again, he's another political prisoner. I think he's being treated terribly and unlawfully, and this shouldn't be happening. So I'm here to show my support, both for Fiona Hyde and also for Julian Assange today.
Yeah, we've also, I think, got another 4 people that were arrested on the 16th. Do you know any of them, or?
I don't know all the details of the other people. I know there are other people who are in the same trial as Fiona, I think, and of course, you know, there's a lot of people who have been arrested and fined under this Coronavirus Act, you know, as the government's been taking away our civil liberties and saying you can't protest, you don't have the freedom of assembly, and people are being arrested and fined and dragged through the courts for the terrible offence of gathering in a group of more than 2 people. And I never thought I would see this happening in England. It's absolutely ridiculous. So there's Fiona, there's a few other people as well, and you know, I support them all.
The police seem to have come down last weekend with the protesters, and again, you know, we've got huge protests all over the place coming this weekend. Will you be attending any?
I will. There's so many protests this weekend, it's hard to decide what to do. I mean, there's a protest in Islington against the low traffic neighbourhoods and all the road blockages. I totally support that. There's a big rally in Manchester. I think there's another freedom rally somewhere in London. I will certainly go to one of them. At the moment, I'm not sure which one I'm going to go to, but you know, I've never been to so many protests in my life as I have done this year, and I think a lot of people are saying the same, because there's just so much going on, which is insane and bad and undermining our way of life, you know, on a national level and on a local level.
Why do you think that we don't see enough politicians down here supporting or even coming to answer some of the questions that a lot of the public have, a lot of the concerns that they've emailed, attempted to make phone calls, and they're not really getting the responses back?
Yeah, I don't see many other. I didn't see any other politicians here today, to be honest. I mean, there's just
in any protest, to be honest, you never see them.
No, I haven't seen any at all. I mean, you know, you would have had some a couple of years ago standing on the stage trying to overturn Brexit, for example. A lot of them go on that, but I haven't seen anyone else come to support freedom rallies, to support Julian Assange, and I think it's terrible. I mean, where are these people standing up against the erosion of our civil liberties and, you know, the fact that we have a political prisoner in Belmarsh prison? I think that's the first thing that politicians who care about our freedoms and our fundamental human rights would be out protesting about, because they're nowhere to be seen. I think a lot of them just toe the party line, you know, whether they're in Tory, Labour, Lib Dem. I just see them all as one party that is now controlled and ruled and by the globalist you know, entity, and is pushing the globalist agenda. So they're not going to come out and support Julian Assange. They're not going to come out and support our civil liberties, and that's it's deplorable as far as I'm concerned.
What do you see for 2021?
Well, this is going to carry on into 2021 because they already signal what they're going to do. I mean, you've already had a lot of these scientists and SAGE and people in the government suggesting there's going to be a new third wave of coronavirus. I mean, of course, this is totally ridiculous, but then that's going to allow them to say, oh, we're going to have a third lockdown. And you've already got Valence saying people will need to be wearing masks for another year. You've got Sturgeon in Scotland already saying that the school examinations in June in the summer are going to be cancelled. I think you've got moves in Wales to try to postpone the Welsh elections. I mean, I'm hearing that under the surface. So people are already making plans to continue this all through next year. So either they will get their way, or the people will rise up and get our way, and we will re-establish our way of life. And, you know, I'm just an ordinary person. I'm not in the Lib Lab Con uni party. I've started my own party, the Heritage Party, which will be a party of the people, a party of liberty and free speech, and a lot of other common sense policies and positions that people around the country just say, well, we totally agree with everything you're saying, and I'm glad to be able to be in a position to do that. I hope the elections will go ahead in May, and that I will become London Mayor, and my party will get other people in local councils around the country to overturn this madness on a local level. That's a long-term thing, but we've got to keep on fighting, because if we don't, all of our liberties and our way of life will be gone. It's as serious as that.
We will win.
Hello, Trump.
here to support Julian Assange, and our action is against his extradition to the United States to face a 175-year sentence. So today is the case management hearing. Julian won't be appearing either in person or by video link because of the COVID-infested jail, Belmarsh Prison, in which he is being held illegally. He can't go to the video room because it's too much of a risk. 59 people on his wing have COVID, so a joint video device that all of them will be using poses too great a risk to his health, which is already very poor. He's got a lung infection that hasn't cleared up since his time in the Ecuadorian embassy. It's over 10 years that Julian's been held, arbitrarily detained in custody in one form or another, trapped in the embassy, leg tagged before that, and now in Belmarsh Prison for nearly 2 years. So the British state has held him incommunicado, unable to work, and jailed illegally after kidnapping him from the Ecuadorian embassy, after the IMF paid a $4.2 billion bribe to the Ecuadorian government to allow the police to go in and kidnap him from sovereign soil in the Ecuadorian embassy, then throw him in Belmarsh jail. He's an innocent journalist. We should all support him because Julian warned about the rise of the surveillance state and the technocracy. 10 years ago he warned us of this, and now we are seeing it in our lives. So #WeAreAllAssange has never been truer than it is today, and everyone should fight for his freedom because essentially it means their freedom. It's tied up with him.
Justice for Jamal! Justice for Jamal! Justice for Jamal!
This is a message from the Dignity Commission from Catalonia, and today we are going to award Julian Assange the Dignity Award 2019. This is a message from the board. This is a message from the board who would so have loved to make it today, but due to COVID restrictions, they weren't able to make it. So this is a message on their behalf. Good morning. We are very grateful to the London Julian Assange Defence Committee, Christine Assange and Eric Levy for the chance to present the 2019 Dignity Prize to Julian Assange today on behalf of the Catalan Dignity Commission. As an organization which fights against the ongoing legacy of Francoism today, 45 years after the dictator's death, it is with great pleasure that we offer this modest award to Julian Assange for the immense task of democratic empowerment he has been carrying out. Our organization, which has been defending civil rights since its creation 18 years ago, recognizes Julian Assange, the very essence of democratic journalism, as based on transparency and the citizens' right to verified information. The scandal is that Julian Assange is on trial for doing this. Yet the only crimes we can in any way relate to Julian Assange are the war crimes he himself has denounced over the years. A clear distinction must be at all times be made between the alleged national security interests, which dishonest governments claim have been violated, and the illegitimate use they make of security and secrecy as a way of disguising corruption, warmongering, and the abuse of power for imperialist ends. As Catalans, we also want to thank Julian for supporting the Catalan people's right to self-determination, in addition to the valuable aid he offered the independence referendum held on October 1st, 2017. Today, both Julian Assange and the legitimate government of Catalan President Puigdemont, currently divided between exile and prison, are unjustly suffering the repression of dishonest governments. But so are almost 3,000 Catalans who have demanded their lawful rights and are being investigated and prosecuted by way of laws such as the sedition law and the so-called gag law. Introduced by the Conservative PP, the latter is today enforced by a government that cynically calls itself the most progressive in history, but which refuses to move one finger to reverse the situation of international persecution and espionage Julian is subjected to. The Dignity Prize we are today awarding Julian, and which he so clearly deserves, has in the past been granted to former prisoners of concentration camps and anti-fascist activists of all kinds. In this way, Catalonia's Dignity Commission wishes to join in the international call demanding Julian Assange immediate and unconditional release. Extradition to the United States must be refused in the name of democracy, model journalistic practice, the spirit of the 1st of October referendum, and human decency. Thank you very much.
We would like to say thank you very much for this honor bestowed on us to receive this award on behalf of Julian Assange. We will make sure it arrives in the safe hands of those who love him most, his family. Thank you very much for honoring us with allowing us to participate in this wonderful award ceremony. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you.
Julian Assange on behalf of Julian Assange, and of course is having received the award for his support of the Catalan struggle, and reading a statement which has been issued by our whole campaign. There may be some differences in that some of us are perhaps more aware of the political situation, whereas others, and I respect them too, feel that we should get the widest possible unity by not mentioning perhaps one side of what remains controversial in the minds of many people in Britain and the United States, but I think because of the lies of the media, and not just their lies, but their omission of the truths, of which, of course, Julian Assange has spoken. So I'll read first the statement that we've all agreed on, and I'll add some of my own comments, since I've been asked to speak on behalf of Julian Assange, but his mother, Christina, not knowing my other views on the world politics, I'll mention that too. So I hope that there's no clash and that these two statements are seen as were interdependent and compatible. So here's a statement first by all of us, and I certainly agree with it. On behalf of the Committee to Defend Julian Assange, I am honored to receive, on behalf of Julian Assange, the Catalonian Dignity Award 2019. Solidarity is the cornerstone of every social movement striving for a better society. This is what we are engaged in, day in and day out, and have been for years now, in defense of our dearly and most justly beloved Julian Assange, on the streets and pavements and online. It was the same solidarity that Julian Assange extended to the Catalan people at the time in their own struggle. He did not take a position on the issue of independence. He remained true to Chapter 1, Article 1 of the United Nations Charter, the purpose of which is to develop friendly relations among nations based on respect for the principle of equal rights and self-determination of peoples, and to take other appropriate measures to strengthen universal peace. That's a quotation there. Julian Assange offered his solidarity in the only way he could. While arbitrarily detained inside the Ecuadorian embassy by the United Kingdom, he followed the developments in Catalonia, informed others through social media of what was happening, and assisted in the freedom of expression of those participating in the events he was following. Indeed, this is my statement here, we must always remember that freedom is indivisible. This was said at the time by the first country in the 20th century to have a socialist revolution, and it was said in defense of Ethiopia, Eritrea, I think it was, Abyssinia, the fascists called it, in Africa. Indeed, we must always remember that freedom is indivisible. It cannot be between or for one nation, a group of nations, often privileged, but anyway, just one group of nations, and at the expense of other nations. You remember the statement of Donald Trump, shithole nations? No. All nations are important and equally important, large or small, powerful military or not, economically also. So we must also always remember that. That is a popular saying we have, an injury to one is an injury to all. That's a popular statement we have today. In the days of slavery, people were talking about, well, one is enslaved, all are in chains. I don't think that's an exaggeration at all, and it's appropriate today in many respects. Solidarity is what unites people around the globe, irrespective of race or ideology, in what has been nobly conceived as daring to struggle, daring to win. Dare to struggle, dare to win is what the Vietnamese said when they were occupied by the United States, and very much with the complicity of Britain, although Britain didn't send troops there. They had, I think in Lahore, in Malaysia, they had a counterinsurgency center. They also sent guide dogs, and this led me to throw away all the silver paper I had collected on behalf of blind people to buy these blind dogs, the dogs for blind people, because they were sent to Vietnam to sniff out the Vietnamese patriots. So what I did was I took that big ball of silver paper I collected and threw it at people in the audience with whom I was speaking, singing songs and called freedom songs. Bring me to something else, I'll say it afterwards, okay? Okay, so where are we? An injury to one is an injury to all, okay? And that freedom is indivisible, cannot be divided. Solidarity is what unites people around the globe, irrespective of race, religion, or ideology, in what has been nobly conceived as daring to struggle, daring to win. I believe I would have said that, okay? So, okay, thank you again. In everlasting solidarity, free Assange now. Maybe I should have said this before I made this farewell. I wanted to recommend, if I'm asked to make a personal contribution, I'll mention the name of a person very few will have heard of. But I think it's most important, although he's a person who retired from politics, I think in 61, 62. He's the son of a chattel slave in the United States. His father worked his way north, became a preacher, brought up his children, and the name of the man is Paul Robeson, R-O-B-E-S-O-N. Okay, look him up. He has written one book, and one book only that you should read, his own statement called Here I Stand. You can get that book today and read it, and then I think you will see, although it was written in 58, that it shows us very much what we can all do, and I think meets the views of others who say we shouldn't mention politics, we should get the widest possible unity, of course. So I'll repeat again, thank you again. In everlasting solidarity, solidarity forever, union makes us strong. Free Assange now.
Free, free, free Assange!
Free, free, free Assange!
Free, free, free Assange!
Free Assange!
There's only one decision!
No extradition!
Our message is clear and simple. Julian Assange is a publisher and a journalist. He does not belong to Belmarsh prison. Free Julian Assange now! Free!
Julian Assange now!
He cannot speak. We are his voice. Just as he spoke up for others when he was able to do so, so now we speak for him. Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
I would like to thank very much for this award. We'll make sure it's in safe hands, hands that are caring and loving towards Julian Assange. We're very, very grateful that you come all the way to give us the opportunity to participate in this award.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I would like to ask Daniel Fuchs, an artist,
Proper spelling of your name for it.
to present his work of art to our group of solidarity activists and say a few words, if I may, please. I'd be very grateful. Thank you. Thank you.
It's an honour to be here, and I'd love to present my painting of Julian Assange to you guys to show my support. I'd like to take that. I think it's outrageous what's been done to Julian. I cannot believe that the man that exposed the crime is the one doing the time. If Julian loses this case, which I fear he will, I think we'll be entering a new time of fascism. Dark days are ahead, we must all fight now. Free Julian Assange.
Free Julian Assange! Thank you very much.
Free Julian Assange! UK! Hands off Assange! US! UK! Hands off Assange! US! UK! Hands off Assange! US! UK! Hands off Assange! Doesn't deserve this unfair trial. We are here standing for the freedom of Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Justice for Julian. Justice for Julian. Justice for Julian.
Well, I am Joe Brack. I am an independent journalist. I'm a musician. I run EF Press on Twitter and YouTube. and I'm a member of the Julian Assange Defence Committee, and I was duly elected as a police liaison officer. So when we go on these protests and marches, I liaise with the police, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully. And we've all come here today along with our friends from the Palestinian and Jordanian causes in support of Julian Assange. And today he was not able to attend by the video link at the hearing for his case management because of the COVID situation at Belmarsh. And the Judge Barrister was not sitting today, but I'd given permission for Julian not to attend. So the hearing was very short, and the current judge who was overseeing the case, Judge Goldberg, said that Julian was to be held on remand at Belmarsh until the 4th of January for the judgment at the Central Criminal Court, the Old Bailey. So it was a very short hearing today. Julian wasn't on the video link. It's very unsafe at Belmarsh for his welfare, and the risk of a man with a lung condition and various other medical issues that have been untreated for nearly a decade, it's very, very dangerous, especially the risk in his block where they appear to be moving the cases positive for COVID into his block. So there is some evidence that the policy of endangering his safety and welfare is somewhat deliberate, not just by the Belmarsh prison governor Rob Davis, but also by the Magistrates Court here, who are giving permission for him to be remanded. So there is some evidence coming out that this is a very much a punitive and a very risky manoeuvre by the Magistrates Court and by the prison itself.
And I was told there's something happening on Boxing Day.
There are quite a few events coming up. Every Wednesday at 1 o'clock onwards there's a protest outside Australia House. Every Saturday we go to Belmarsh between 12 and 2 to protest there. Then we meet up at Piccadilly Circus at 4 o'clock on a Saturday. The 17th of this month we will be at the Guardian offices for Chelsea Manning's birthday and to raise a protest against the Guardian. And on Boxing Day we're going to do a Belmarsh protest. And traditionally Boxing Day is the day that alms are collected for those poor and in need. So we will have an alms collection for Julian, as it is traditional to present these gifts and things on Boxing Day, and to help those who are suffering, the victims of poverty, and all our detainees in the UK prisons and detention centres here in the UK.
Right, so I've just seen you coming out. What happened?
Well, I was excluded from court because I was in disagreement with what the prosecution was saying. They couldn't even get their own case right, and I couldn't sit there in silence and listen to them put a case forward that was completely incorrect. Things like saying I was handcuffed, I was never handcuffed. Saying that it's a high consequence infectious disease, which it isn't, and it wasn't even before the coronavirus legislation. So there was so many inconsistencies, and it just seems like an absolute show trial. And saying that the reasonable excuse doesn't apply, they let certain protests go ahead and not others. I then had a sip of my Pepsi, and he told me that I wasn't allowed to drink Pepsi, that I could drink water but not Pepsi. And I said, why is that? Where in the law does it say I can't drink Pepsi? Additionally, he said, are you chewing gum? I said, well, I am. Is that an issue? He said, yes. No, he said, no, it's not actually an issue. I said, well, why point it out then? And then he said, one more outburst and you'll be excluded. I said, I'm going to exclude myself. This is ridiculous. I said, you should be ashamed of yourself. This is a show trial and I cannot be a part of it. So I've left my representation to deal with my case on my behalf.
What do you think that's going to mean?
Nothing. They've joined several cases together, so they expect me to sit through a full day of hearing other people's cases. He went a brief over 3 or 4 different people, a brief, was talking about me, but the first 3 people that will be heard in front of me this all morning and afternoon, it doesn't even involve me. So I'm not going to sit there and listen to other people's cases. And it's absolute nonsense. The whole the whole thing's nonsense, and I cannot sit there and listen to it and be a party of it. I won't engage with it now. I mean, my solicitor's there, not very happy probably, but I will not sit there and listen and be party to that. If I'm found guilty, if I'm convicted, it can be done in my absence, that's fine. Worst case scenario, I believe it's not a non-imprisonable offence anyway, so I didn't have to sit in the dock or anything. So it may be a fine, it may be a discharge, who knows what it might be. But I will not partake in this nonsense anymore.
Thank you for this. It's been an incredible experience to receive so much positivity, and we're really excited to be able to talk to you tonight, as I mentioned. In that context, I just wanted to ask before we got started, how many people here know Brian already? Maybe as a show of hands. And how many people are fans of London Real? All right, that's great. That's good answer. So I guess everybody knows Brian's been broadcasting transformational content for the last 9 years now. Our content's been seen by 500 million people. We've got 5 million subscribers. But the reality is that Brian sees that the city is currently in crisis, and he believes he's got a strategy, he's got an action plan that can immediately address these challenges. Just in terms of the format for this evening, we're going to have Brian on stage, as I mentioned, just in a couple of minutes' time. And he's going to be talking for around 20 or 30 minutes about some of his key policy areas. After that, we're going to open the floor to a question and answer. And then after that, everybody who wants to can get their pictures taken with Brian. And we've got the best in the game swag upstairs. So we're excited to share our swag game with you. Before I wrap up my intro, again, I just really want to thank everybody for coming tonight. It means such a big deal to us. Really can't thank everybody enough for the fantastic support that we've received so far. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage my boss, founder of London Real, and your next Mayor of London, Mr. Brian Rose.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. I really appreciate you being here to listen to me. I've got lots of exciting things that I want to talk about. I've got some policy ideas and just really excited for the future. So I know you probably have some other options, the things you could have been doing tonight, pub/Netflix/ other things. So I really appreciate you coming out and taking the time. My plan is to go to every single borough of London and speak to the people on the ground. Last week we were in Hamlets and had a great conversation with the people there. And tonight, I really have 2 things I want to do. Tell you some of my ideas for the future, and then next I want to listen to you. I really want to hear from you. What's your challenge right now? What are you struggling with? What's difficult? Is it work? Is it crime? Is it housing? What is it that's really on your mind? Because in my mind, the Mayor of London has 2 jobs. The first is to listen, and the second is to serve. And I don't see our current mayor doing either one of those things right now. And that's why I'm here. So if you don't know already, my name is Brian Rose, and I will be your next Mayor of London. I am extremely excited to make the changes this city needs. I want to lead London in a new direction, and I want to make this place a world-class city once again. I'm a bit frustrated with what's happening right now, and I know we can make the changes, and I know we can make this happen. And so tonight, like I said, I want to share with you some of my ideas. I want to hear questions from you, and then afterwards, we can take some pictures, we can chat a little bit, and we have world-class swag. I'm telling you, we got the best in the business, coffee cups, t-shirts, all of that good stuff. So really excited to drop all that stuff on you. Before we get started, you're probably wondering what that funny sound is, and that's my accent. Does anyone know where maybe I was born? Any guesses? New York, California. You've done your research, haven't you? Okay, it's a little bit there. It's true. I'm coming clean right now. I'm originally from San Diego, California, and if you don't know much about it, anybody ever been to California? It does look like the postcards. Where I'm from in San Diego, right now, as we speak, there are people on the beach, there are people surfing, there are people getting sunburned right now. I spoke to my dad earlier today. He confirmed that. And so everyone always says, Brian, why are you here? Why are you in London, of all places, when you could be on the beach, you could be surfing, you could be living the good life in California? And the answer is this, is that I think London is the greatest city in the world. I love this place. And I've lived all over the world. I've lived in New York City, I've lived in Los Angeles, I've lived in Chicago, I've traveled to Tokyo and to Thailand and Africa and Buenos Aires and Rio de Janeiro. I've been everywhere. But the truth is London is the greatest city in the world by a factor of 10, in my opinion. I love this city so much. I moved here permanently in 2002. I've lived here for 20 years. I became a British citizen in 2007. My children were born here. They are British citizens now. I built my business here. And quite frankly, I plan on being buried right here in this city. I really do love this city so much. It's given me so much. You know, when I first got here, I was struggling. I was struggling just to be the man that I wanted to be. And this city's given me everything. And that's why, for me, this is personal. This whole thing is personal. Because I believe our current politicians are running this city into the ground. And I can't sit around idly and watch it happen. I just can't. I tried for a little while. But after a while, I said, wait a second, something's got to be done. And we've got to make a change. And it's not just for me, it's for my children as well. Does anyone here have children? Anyone? A few parents in the room, I see. I have a daughter. She's 16. Her name is Gabby. And she's actually, I guess technically not my daughter. I actually adopted her when she was about 8 or 9 years old. And that whole process just changed me as a person. It actually, honestly, made me become a man and grow up. And I actually had to take responsibility for someone else. Before that, I'd sworn I was never going to have a family. I was going to be a bachelor the rest of my life. You know, the guy with the car and the big house and nobody else. That was me, and it was making me really miserable. And I happened to have this young girl pop into my life. And the reason she came is because I started dating her mother. And she's here tonight. Would you like to meet my wife, Mariana? Come on, let's bring her up. Thanks for being here. So, I remember my first date with Mariana, we went out, it was somewhere in central London, and we had coffee. And she tried not to tell me, but she ended up telling me she was a single mother. And you were trying to hold back, right? No, you were. And it was none of your business. It's true, it was none of my business. I think I was probing. It was a first date. And I remember, and she told me, I was like, I've never dated a single mother before. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, you know what? Maybe this is something amazing. Maybe it is. And so I just went with it. And I remember I met Gabby. Gabby was looking at me funny the first time she met me. And these two beautiful women started being a part of my life. And there was a point a few years later where it was time for me to step up and start a family. So we got a house together and we moved in, and the cat came too. And I still remember it was really stressful for everybody, but it was the right thing to do. And now, some 9, 10 years later, this one convinced me to have two of our own. So we now have two young boys, Katie and Damon. They're 4 and 3, and apparently she wants another one. I don't know about that. So it changed me entirely, and so I just want to say thank you to you, baby. You've always supported me in everything I do, including this. And yeah, thank you for bringing Gabby to my life and everything. So, Mariana, appreciate it.
After all, time is the most precious thing we have. Thank you for coming here. I hope you have the hard questions, because here does have the answers.
Thanks, babe. And you'll notice from Mariana's accent that she wasn't born in this country either. She's actually from Bulgaria. Anybody else here born in a different country than Britain? Those hands up. Anybody whose parents were born in a different country than this country? More hands. So about 70 or 80% of us, either this generation or the other generation, came from another country. And the truth is I have too, and my wife has, but if you look back at London's history, that's always been the case. You know, when the Romans cruised through here a couple thousand years ago, they brought all this great new technology, and the Vikings and the Normans, and it's always made this metropolis incredible. It's really the new ideas and the new people. And so I look forward to being a part of that as well, and I want to contribute what I can to this great city. And I really do believe it's our diversity and our new ideas that makes this place super strong. And so, you know, having these younger children in my life, they make me look at this whole problem we have here in London with a different lens. I'm always thinking it's not just about me. Can I make it through? Yeah. But what about my children? Like, is it safe for them to walk the streets? My 16-year-old is like, am I ever going to have my dream job? You know, she doesn't know now. They're calling our younger generation, Generation COVID. You know, the Princess Trust did a study recently, and 38% of the kids said they'll never have their dream job. That's what they think, 38%. I don't know about you, when I was a kid, my mom said, Brian, you can do anything you want to. Anybody have a mother like that? Right? You gotta love mothers like that. Right? Just you can do anything you want to. These days, the kids get a different message, right? Where are the jobs? Do I go to work? Do I stay at home in my room? Is that where I go to college and get my jobs? What do I do, get married in my room? Like, is it all by video now? There's a lot of questions out there. And so I've been asking a lot of hard questions, and that's really why I'm here with you today. You know, a lot of you might know me from something I've been doing the last 9 years, and it's this broadcasting platform I've built from scratch called London Real. Does anybody know London Real? You watch that? Okay, some of you have. You know, it's a crazy story in itself, but 9 years ago, I quit my job and decided I needed to do something different, and I started broadcasting. Honestly, it wasn't a business, it wasn't anything. It was just anybody I could con to come over to my kitchen to talk to me on camera. That's really what it was. And it was just my buddies, my martial arts, instructor, anybody that would come over. And it's just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I always like to make something better the next time I do it. It's just in my personality. I always try to make it better. Hopefully the next time I talk, I'll be a little bit better. And so each episode we got a little bit better, and we started to get bigger guests and bigger guests and bigger guests. And it just evolved into this massive thing. Later, we built London Real Academy. We started teaching people from all over the world. And we've taught now 5,000 students, graduated 5,000 students in 107 countries. I've taught them business and broadcasting, and if you could believe it, even public speaking. I've taught a few classes in that. And it just morphed into this crazy thing. And now our content has been watched over 500 million times now around the world. We've made 5 documentary feature films. I've had 1,000 people that I've put in my leather chair and had a long-form conversation with. And all that is free. It's free. So I believe we've been building our own community and contributing back to the community for 9 years. So this is actually, politics is new for me, and I'll tell you how I feel about that later, but giving back to the community and connecting with other people and building communities, I've been doing this for a long time, and I feel good about it. The thing about London Real is we put anybody in the chair and we listen to them. We let them talk and tell us their journey for 2.5, 3 hours sometimes. And sometimes I put someone in the chair who I disagree with, who I don't like, who I think is maybe a bit of a jerk sometimes. And usually after listening to them for 2.5 hours, I actually understand who they are. And I might still disagree with them, but I understand why they do what they do. I've almost like walked a mile in their shoes. Have you ever heard that expression? Walk a mile in a man or a woman's shoes and you understand what they're about. And so I think it's an important thing that we've done. You watch the news today and you get a bunch of people on there for 4 minutes and they scream at each other and then they go. Or you look at America, where I'm from, and it looks like a country divided. You're on the blue team or the red team, and if you're not, I'm not going to talk to you. I don't think that's a way to move forward. What I've been doing for the last 9 years is listening to people. I listen to ideas, and we form an open and honest conversation, and these people change my mind. I've changed my mind a lot over the years, and it's because I was willing to engage with a different point of view. We've got to do more of that now. And so the truth is that honestly, everything was going great. This year was an incredible year for London Real. We've never been busier, we've never been more popular, and business has never been better, to be honest. But this year was interesting because we started asking hard questions about what was going on. And maybe some of you have seen some of our broadcasts where we asked hard questions and had some controversial conversations, and we did. And when everything started getting crazy, we started having doctors, nurses, Nobel Prize winners, scientists, real people in the know, asking hard questions and answering hard questions. And some of the things I was saying was completely opposite to what our leaders were doing, our government was doing, and what we were seeing outside. And so I was being critical of what the government was doing, the decisions they were making. I was being openly critical. And at some point, I asked myself, are you going to keep doing this for another year? Are you going to make another video and complain about a lockdown? Are you going to complain about a reaction? Are you going to complain that we can't get this city back to work? Are you going to complain about rising knife crime? Are you going to complain that there's no housing in the city? Or are you going to do something about it? We all know someone that complains all the time, but never gives you a solution, right? We all have a friend like that, I think. And so it came to a point where I thought, what am I going to do here? Maybe it's time to offer a solution. And then I thought about my young boys. They're 3 and they're 4 years old. And I just thought, 20 years from now, in 2040, they're going to say, hey, Dad, What did you do in 2020 when the whole world was upside down? What did you do? Did you make some videos? Did you complain? Or did you actually step up and do something about it? Now that's the conversation they're going to have with these boys when they're older. And they're going to, the thing about me is they can see everything I've done, right, in video. So they know what Dad did. I can't tell them some tall tale about the great things I did. And so it was a very hard decision to make. And I remember I went home and spoke to Mariana. I went with Paul Frost, my chief of staff here, and we went to have dinner. And I told my wife, I said, darling, I'm going to run for mayor of London. And I still remember her reaction. She looked at me and she said, why? Why do this? Why do this to yourself? London Real has never been more popular. The world needs you right now. We need these messages, and business is great. You're going to go do this, and you're going to be criticized. You're going to have to put your business on hold, your life on hold. Why do this? And I looked at her, and I still remember, I said, lady, I can't not do this. I could never forgive myself if I don't do this. I could not live with myself if I looked back and thought, wait a second, you had a chance to do this, and you didn't do it. And the truth is, and we can see now in the polls and with the odds, that if I don't do this, no one's going to do this. Because we're going to get another 3 years of business as usual. Because no other candidate right now is challenging our current mayor of London. We are currently in second place, by the way, which is absolutely incredible. And I don't like to celebrate wins. I'm really bad at it. Ask my team. But the truth is, this has never been done in the history of the London mayorship, ever. We are ahead of the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party, who has the current Prime Minister in Parliament, right? This is hundreds of years, tens of millions of pounds of financing, and we are well ahead of the Conservative candidate. It is us and the current mayor. It is ours to lose right now. But don't get me wrong. This current mayor, he knows he's going to win. He knows you're going to vote for him. You always vote for his party. He doesn't have to keep his promises. He can do whatever he wants, and he knows he's going to get your vote, and he's not sweating. And that's the truth. And he's not going to change. He's not going to think of new policies. He's not going to listen to your challenges. He's not going to come here and listen to you. He would never do a Q&A with you because he knows he's going to get most of your votes and keep doing what he's going to do. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to challenge that. And I've got some incredible ideas. And I've spent the last 6 months researching every single detail about what this city needs. I've spoken to more business leaders, community leaders, people in the arts than our current mayor has in the last 6 months on my platform, London Real. And you can go watch all of those videos. I spoke with the founder of Yo Sushi, the founder of Pizza Express, the one that runs the Theaters Trust. I spoke with tourism countries. I said, what is the problem? I spoke to the taxi drivers union. I said, what are you struggling with? I've spoken to doctors, like I said, Nobel Prize winners, economists. I have the answers. I know exactly what we need to do, and I've detailed it all with 12 of my policies. They're all there with videos as well. It's London Real, we like video, and that's all on our website, brianformayor.com, and I highly encourage you to go look at that. None of the other candidates have talked about policies and details because they don't know, they don't care, or they don't think they need to get your vote because they think they're going to get it anyways. And so I just want to express that being an independent candidate means a lot here. I have nobody telling me what to do. Nobody. I got no supporters, I got no party, I got nobody writing me checks. I'm doing this on my own. And that means the best idea wins. Period. And I'm willing to listen to ideas from anybody. I don't care if you're Labour or Conservative, if you're black or white or from whatever country. I want the best idea. That's what should always win. And that's why we are going to win this race. I am confident. The people I'm speaking to, they hate the current leadership. They don't understand it. And I want to talk about that tonight. So I'd love to share with you 3 of my policies. I don't want to go through all 12 because it'll be a long night. But I love talking about this stuff. Again, you can see the rest on our website. The first is I want to get London back to work. And I want to talk in detail about what we're doing wrong right now. The second is I want to make London safe again. We all know that knife crime is at nightmare proportions right now in the city. And it's gone up every single year the current mayor has been in office. And I want to talk about that. And the third I want to talk about is affordable housing and the shocking state of the lack of affordable housing in the city. And it drives all of our rent prices and our mortgage payments up. And the mayor has not followed his promises. He's lied to us about what he said he was going to do. I want to talk about that, and then I want to talk about voting, and then I want to hear from you and answer your questions. How's that sound? Good for everyone? Okay, great. First of all, I want to talk about getting London back to work. Tell me if you have been adversely affected by this lockdown. Have you lost employment? Has your business been hurt? Are you on furlough? Are you mentally taxed? Okay, there's quite a few hands out there, okay? A lot of us have been directly affected by this lockdown. And one of my first policies, and my main policy, is get London back to work. We are currently in a Tier 2 lockdown. Rumors that we're going to a Tier 3 lockdown shortly, right? And we could go back to the Tier 4, whatever they call it, in January. So right now we are locked down in this city. And yet I question if we really need to be locked down. Now people say there's the economy, and then there's us saving lives. The truth is, we are the economy. And when you try to suck one from the other, you always have problems. They say you can save lives, or you can have the economy. You can have one or the other. Not only can you have both, you need both to have a functioning society. I have spoken with people in the hospitality industry, and they have said this. Brian, did you know, according to Public Health England's own data, total COVID transmissions in the hospitality sector is 3.3% of all cases. I'm talking about pubs, cafes, restaurants. Does anybody like going to those? Anybody work in those, own those, or know someone employed in those? It's a massive generator of revenue. 15% of the population of the UK is employed in the hospitality sector. And yet they shut that thing down first when you hear about all this panic. And yet it's 3% of cases. Why shut that industry down? This industry has gone to tireless efforts to make it possible. Contactless payments, hand sanitizers, one-way systems. It's all happening. You're looking at it happening here, right? They are doing that. They have been compliant. These are some of the cleanest places to start off with. They keep your food clean. They already have high standards. And yet they're being demolished by these lockdowns. These are entrepreneurs that invest capital and create jobs. That's the thing that our current mayor doesn't understand. He's never been an entrepreneur his whole life. He doesn't understand business. Uncertainty is the killer of business. Right? Does anyone know what I'm talking about here? You can't make capital investments. You can't hire people. You can't do. And let's not get it twisted here. 98% of all businesses in this city are small and medium-sized enterprises. It's the small business. It's the cafe. It's the taxi driver. That's what keeps London moving. That's what actually keeps us all in business. Now, you might not work in one of those industries, but when they shut them down, you feel the pain sooner or later. And I want to talk about that tonight. The truth is, we can get London back to work safely right now, but our leadership seems to be doing just the opposite. And I've spoken with taxi drivers and entrepreneurs, and they say, Brian, it feels like the mayor is actually doing the opposite of what we need. It almost feels like he's sabotaging us somehow. And you really saw the contrast of this with the mayor of Manchester. I don't know if you remember 3 or 4 months ago, you had the mayor of Manchester fighting to keep businesses open, saying, you're trying to shut us down here in London, but we've got people that their whole livelihoods are based on this. Show us the data. We can't show you the data. Then why are you locking us down? Our mayor of London, he crusaded for the lockdown. He predicted the lockdown. He campaigned for it. You remember that. 2 weeks before we locked down, he said, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. If it's based on science, how is it inevitable? Aren't we waiting for your case numbers or whatever metric you want to throw at us? It's not inevitable. And I thought to myself, why would the mayor of London try to shut his own city down? Right? Why? He needs the revenues to keep his bankrupt Transport for London money, right? And that's a whole other issue I won't even go into tonight. He knows he's going to get reelected based on economics. He knows it's crushing our mental health. He knows that we're missing even our physical health appointments in our NHS. Why would he do this? He's got some strange political agenda. And I'll be honest with you, the more I learn about the two-party political system, the more it makes me sick. There are corporate interests, there are strange agendas, there are allegiance to the party. And what does our current mayor of London do? He blames the Prime Minister, who is conveniently the opposite party. It's all Boris's fault. How is it his fault? A leader takes ownership for their decisions, and a leader makes things happen. He has a campaign of fear. He has a campaign of shutting us down, and that makes a massive difference. And you might say, well, the mayor can only do so much. Yeah, the mayor can do a lot. The mayor can lead from the front and get London back to work. Let me give you an example. I used to work in the banking sector. That's why I first came here. I spent 10 years in banking. Has anybody been to the city recently or out in the city? It's right here. It's completely vacant, right? There's no one there in the offices. It's dead. All the taxi drivers say there's no business out there. It's crushing us. If I were the mayor, I would do this. It's simple, effective, and it's easy. I would have a meeting with the CEOs of the top 25 global financial institutions, and I would get them all in a room and I would say this. What's it going to take to get 25% of your workforce back in here safely? Okay? We're going to use the protocols. We're going to test them. We're going to get the younger ones. What's it going to take to get them back in here? What do you need? You have a new building project in Canary Wharf? Let's talk about that. You want an income tax break for some of those people coming in? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you owe the city. You've been here for 20 years here, doing a lot of good business. Guess what? It's time for you to get those people back to work. Imagine if we had our offices full. It would start knocking on to all of our businesses here. The city is a major generator of revenue for this city and the rest of the country. But all it would take is leadership. A mayor to go in there and be proactive and get this stuff done. Get us back to work. Open up hospitality venues. Gyms are another one, responsible for 1.7% of transmissions, and yet they shut them all down in the last lockdown. Why? Where's the science? Again, there is no science. There's no agenda. We've got to get London back to work. The final thing I want to do is I want to cut the congestion charge. What did our mayor do in the biggest recession of the last 300 years? He raised congestion charges by 44%. How is that going to bring people into London to spend? Right now it's Christmas season. Christmas is responsible for £82 billion of revenue. Right now we need people coming to London. Congestion charge holiday for 6 months. Get people here no matter what. Tourists from the UK actually spend more money in London than international tourists. Did you know that? They actually spend more money when they're here. They make a weekend of it. They go to a show. They get the hotel. They go big, right? Going to London once a year. They spend big money. We can get these people in here. Cut the congestion charge and cut the business rates. If you're a business owner, you're barely making it right now. You think you're not going to survive, and yet you're getting charged business rates? Business rate and congestion charge holiday for the next 6 months to get people into London. Let me say one more thing about Christmas. There's a rumored Tier 3 lockdown happening right now. The UK hospitality industry has just said it'll cost us 150,000 jobs if we go into Tier 3 on December 16th. 150,000 jobs in London will be lost for this Christmas season. And our mayor is already signaling that that's what's going to happen. This is a leadership issue. Look at what the mayor of Manchester did. He said, no, show us the numbers. No, show us the numbers. And that's what I would do as mayor of London. Show us the numbers. No, we're not going to do it. We know we can do it safely. We're going to show you our numbers, and we're going to get this city back to work. So that's my major policy, and the truth is this. When you strengthen the economy, everything else gets strengthened. Period. Revenues for your TfL goes up, right? Tax revenues go up. Business is done. Mental health issues go down. Everything works when the economy works. You cannot separate the economy from the people. People think it's a financial issue. The economy is you going to the store, you taking your daughter, your son to school, you going out to the theater. The economy is us, and it's just not understood. They seem to have one instrument, a hammer. Have you heard that expression? When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's all they have is lockdown. Remember the first lockdown in March? How long was it supposed to last? 2 weeks. Why were we locking down? To protect our NHS. Why are we locking down now? To stop the spread of the virus. The WHO's own doctor said lockdowns don't prevent the spread of the virus. Okay? Again, and I can talk your ear off about this because I've talked to probably more doctors, scientists, Nobel Prizes, and experts than most people in this world because of London Real. And all this is out there free. You can go watch it. I'm probably one of the most informed people, and I know we can get London back to work and do it safely. And every single person I meet wants to go back to work. So that is policy number one. Second thing I want to talk about is how to make London safe again. And when you look at the crime figures of this city over the past 5 or 6 years, they are really shocking. And again, the more I look at these numbers, it's emotionally draining for me to see what happened. 2 or 3 weeks ago, the current mayor of London logged his 100th murdered teenager on his watch. 100th teenager was murdered since he became mayor of London. It's shocking. It's shocking to me. When teenagers are killing teenagers, it's not their fault. It's our fault. We have made a mistake. These aren't bad kids. We have made a mistake. We have elected the wrong leaders. They've made the wrong choices. We've not given these young people the right choices. And I want to talk about how we can give them those choices. What did the mayor do this year? He just cut the police budget by £110 million. He's defunding the police, is what he's doing. Now, I know in America there's people talking about defunding the police. I don't buy it. We need to give our police more funding. We need to train them in difficult scenarios. They have difficult jobs and they must be held accountable. But we must give them more training. And let's be honest, we know what the problem is. We need more police on the streets. We need more police on the streets. But it can't just be any police officer. we have to have proportional representation of the communities they serve. I'm talking about, if you want to be a police officer in Tower Hamlets, we need a certain percentage of your officers living in Tower Hamlets. That means they police the communities they serve, and guess what? That means on duty and off duty. You have to interact with the people that you police. That is a big way of holding people accountable. And they have to be proportional. They have to represent the genders, the races, the ethnicities, the religions that they serve. Period. And they have to be held accountable through more digital means and body cams, and we know what to do with that with technology. These are the solutions that we need for our crime. But there's one big one that no one's talking about. And that is, where are the opportunities that these young people are given? What are the choices they have right now? Right? Go to crime, or what else? Look at our community centers. They have been defunded by our current mayor. And I just ran the numbers. I did an entire 1 hour and 19-minute episode today about communities. Watch it if you've got a little time. It's a live episode. I do it every week. It's called Real Deal. It's live. I take live questions, and I tell you what I've researched. He's dropped community budgets by 46% since he took office, and the numbers are astounding. Tower Hamlets' budget has dropped by £4.7 million since 2011. £4.7 million. What are these kids supposed to do when the community centers are shut down? They've got no options. I had the world champion boxer David Hay in my office on Sunday. Does everybody know David? He's an amazing champion. And he came over to my offices. I've known David off and on throughout the years, but this year he's been watching us broadcast and fight censorship, and he's been one of our big supporters. It's been incredible. He wrote me a long letter before one of our broadcasts and said, Brian, what you're doing is epic. He said, you're going to be vilified now, but 20 years from now, people are going to respect your fight. And it meant a lot to me that David wrote me that letter. And he came over to our studio. Paul was there. It was on Sunday. We work on Sundays. Sorry, baby. We work on Sundays. We have to. And he came over and he said, Brian, I'm not going to lie to you. He said, I've never voted in my life. I hate politicians. I think they're all scumbags. That's what he said. He said, but I know you stand for the truth. I know you fight for the truth. And he said, I'm looking what's happening in the communities, and they're shutting down all the boxing gyms. He said, what are young men supposed to do? They're full of energy. They've got to get it out. They're shutting down boxing gyms. They're shutting down communities. He's like, I want to work with you so we can build these community centers back up and give these kids options. Period. Again, it's not their fault if they're hurting each other. It's our fault. Now, how do you do it? This is the question that no one can answer, but I can answer. Why? Because I'm thinking differently than the other ones. They're a two-party system. They rehash the same thing every 4 years and feed it to you, and you vote red or blue or whatever it is, and then you keep going. There's no new ideas, and they continue on with their agendas. I have new ideas. And there's a great example out there, and it comes from a guy named Jamal Edwards. Anyone know Jamal? He started SBTV. It's that incredible multimedia platform. He kind of made famous a lot of grime artists, Ed Sheeran, a bunch of people. Jamal got an MBE from the Queen. He's a fantastic young man who built an incredible platform. Now, Jamal was in Acton, where he grew up recently, and he looked across the street and he saw the community center that he grew up in, and it was closed. He's like, why is that closed? That's the same community center where I learned video skills. That's where I learned sound mixing. That's how I built this incredible business called SBTV and made tons of artists famous. Why is it closed? He said, why? Oh, the funding was cut. Probably had something to do with the mayor, right? What did he do? He said, I'm going to find a solution. So he went to Google, and he went to the Wellcome Trust here, which is a multi-billion-dollar trust, and he said, how can we get this funded? And it wasn't easy. Even for Jamal, he's got an MBE, he's got millions of Instagram followers, more than me, I think, right? He still had a difficult time, but he made it happen. And he got hundreds of thousands of pounds from Google and the Wellcome Trust to open up that community center in Acton. This is a case study of what we can do in our communities. And we can do this times 100. I'm talking every borough of every city has a corporate-funded community center. Right? Because everyone says, where's the money going to come from? And we know our politicians. Where's the money? Last week I was in Homerton. I spoke with a guy named Dean O'Kai. And he said, Brian, I've been in the mayor's office. He promised us £10 million of funding for my BAME groups that I work for. And we never saw a dime of it. And I was in a meeting with 100 other community leaders. And I said, raise your hand if you've seen any of this money. And he said, no one answered this question. He said, all the mayor does is give his legalese. He lies to us. He doesn't care about us. And he's right. Where does the money go? It always disappears, right? There's always a better reason. Oh, we're going to throw it over here. No more. These corporates do business in the communities. You are their customers. They've just never been given options. They've never been spoken to by an entrepreneur, by a leader who wants to give them solutions. I'm going to start calling up the Googles and the Amazons and all of these in the world. If they sponsor Emirates Stadium, why can't they sponsor a community center? Has anyone ever thought of that? It's just because no one's ever actually thought about it. So I mean, these are great ideas. How come they're not doing it? Because they're stuck in the old way of business, right? For our mayor to do that, he probably has to go get approval from the Labour Party, and then 400 people have to say, no, that's a bad idea, because that MP, it goes against him, and then just get re-elected. We'll tell them the usual thing. They'll go Labour. You'll be fine. So why would they innovate? You know, they say necessity is the mother of invention. Well, we need it right now. So we need to give our young people opportunities, just like Jamal was given. That's how we really fight crime, and that's how we end knife crime as well. Again, there's kids out there that have to carry knives because they're worried about being stabbed. You know, I've got boys 3 and 4 years old. I got a 16-year-old daughter. It's not okay. It's not okay. And this is a London problem. This is an eyesore. We should be embarrassed by this. And we can fix it, and we can make London safe again. Last thing I want to talk about is housing and affordable housing. London lacks, in a serious way, affordable homes to rent and to buy. The housing costs of this city are astronomical proportions. Some people spend 30, 40, 50% of their after-tax take-home pay on housing. How many people regret the day that the rent check has to come paid? Come on, anybody here? I don't like seeing that thing coming. It's a massive chunk of our income. And it's all because we lack housing in this city. And we've known this for a long time. When the mayor was elected in 2016, he had a simple pledge, and you can look this up. I've got the video. He said, I'm going to build 80,000 new homes per year. That's what he promised. 80,000 new homes per year. If he did that, that would have made a huge difference. Because let's be clear, when you build affordable housing, it eases the rent situation for everyone. For everyone. Look at his record. 5 years later, that means he owes us 400,000 homes. How many has he built? In 2020, he built 1,600 homes. 1,600 homes. And don't tell me that he couldn't build because of COVID, because next door to London Real Studios, they're working every day building. So building hasn't stopped in the city. 1,600 homes. And what about his entire track record? He started the build of 34,000 homes. Started the build. How many did he complete? How many did he complete? 12,000 homes. That's how many homes he's completed. No wonder we have a crisis on our hands. No wonder we have a massive crisis on our hands. In 2018, the national government intervened and gave him £4.8 billion to build 116,000 houses. 2 years later, where are the houses? Where's the money? We get nothing. So what's the solution, right? We hate the friend that always tells the problems, right? I hate that guy too. We can all come up with problems. We can all point the finger. What's the solution? Well, it's actually a high-tech solution. It's only become viable in the last 5 or 10 years, and it's called modular housing. Let me explain it to you. These are high-tech, actually high-spec homes that can be designed specifically for the size of family necessary. They can be built in a factory and transported on trucks and literally placed down on vacant areas, and people can move into these homes. They are flexible, they are customizable, and they are modular. That means 10 years from now, you can put in a new kitchen, you can put in a new bathroom, you can extend it by double. You can take one from Homerton and move it out to Acton. You know, you can go from Tower Hamlets and move it here. These things are incredible options. They're cost effective. How come no one is talking about this? How come no one is talking about this? And that's why I pledge to you now, when I become your mayor on May 6th of next year, I will build and fill 50,000 new homes by Christmas 2021. And I know that's a bold promise, but we can do it. And that means families in homes in every single borough around the community. I don't mean we build a bunch of them out in Stratford somewhere that no one can get to, and they use it as a statistic. I'm talking about homes in every single borough. We can put these in disused areas. We can put these in crime-ridden areas. We can go put in 20, 30, 40 homes. They're incredible. They're high-spec, and they can be moved, they can be updated, and they can be flexible. This is a real option, and I've gone into detail about this in one of my broadcasts last week. You can watch the full hour. I've got specs, I've got details, I've got video. We can do this now. Again, it's time to stop talking about building houses and to start building houses. It seems so simple to me. Why does this have to be complicated? It doesn't need to be. And that's what's frustrating to me most. Most of us all know what we need to do. We know we need to get London back to work. We know we need to give our youth better options. We know we need to build more homes. And we look at our politicians and they do the opposite. They blame other people, they give us excuses, and then we re-elect them. And so it's our responsibility, ultimately, to change that. And let me just say, on May 6th, you're going to be given an option. You can vote, you can not vote, you can vote for the current mayor, you can vote for me, you can vote for someone else. First of all, I encourage you to vote. Whatever you do, please vote. And if you don't know how to vote, like David Hay, I built a website. It's called votefirst.london. You can go there right now and it shows you exactly how to vote. A lot of people I meet on the street say, I can't vote here, I'm not a citizen. You don't have to be a citizen to vote for mayor. You have to be a resident in this city. If you have a national insurance number, you're good to go. But it just takes a couple forms and a couple emails. Funny how it's a little hard to do, right? So we've got a whole website that shows you exactly how to do it. And honestly, I don't care who you vote for, but vote. But that means you own that vote. So you own the next 3 years of policies. You own the knife victims, you own the lack of housing, you own the situation. You own who you vote for, is all I'm going to say. So I just want to empower you to do that. It's a democratic right. It's something many countries don't even have. Many countries don't actually have real voting. And so you have that opportunity to do it, and I highly recommend that you do that. And so these are some of my ideas. Like I said, there's a lot more where that came from. And I'm going into more and more details every day, and I will continue to put out more information. Like I said, we're in second place right now, but let's not kid ourselves. We've got a long way to go. And the only way we're going to get there is by doing it together. And again, my job, the reason I'm coming out here on a Friday night, is to listen to you, is to do that. It's to listen and to serve. And to listen and to serve. And a lot of people said, Brian, what are you going to do with London Real when you become mayor? And I had to think about it for a few months, and I actually know the solution. We're going to use London Real as a conduit of communication for every single citizen in this city. It's going to be a way that I show you what I'm doing every day, and I get your feedback every single day. That's it. Imagine if all of our politicians did that every day and showed us what they did, and they listened to our feedback every single day. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to broadcast what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. I want to know your feedback. I'm going to show you what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. It's never been done before to use that kind of a broadcast platform for Mayor of London, and it's something that I want to do as well. So, thank you for the time tonight listening. I hope some of these ideas resonated with you. Again, it doesn't have to be that complicated. We just need someone that can go and do these things. And, you know, a couple people have said, but Brian, as mayor, do you really think you can actually do those things? And actually, the mayor's remit is quite broad. We actually have a big budget for the transport, for the Met Police, a lot of leadership roles, a lot of control. And guess what? I don't have a party to answer to. I don't have other members of parliament to tell me what to do, and they don't make me the prime minister. In fact, I can do what I've told you I'm going to do, and there's not much they can do about it. I really have sovereignty. And if we don't agree with something that the prime minister is saying, we can say, guess what? As Londoners, we're not going to do it. And we are going to say, show us the science, show us the real numbers. And I promise you that we will be going that and going forward with that, getting London back to work, providing housing, and making our streets safe. So it's been an incredible journey so far. We've got a long way to go, but I realize I can't do it alone. I'm going to need everyone's help. I really appreciate everybody coming here. I appreciate you listening. And honestly, right now, I'd love to get your questions. And of course, my wife already told you to ask me the hardest questions possible. So thank you, honey. I appreciate that. But I like hard questions because whenever you get a hard question, you find a solution. And I got some great questions last week when I was in Homerton, and I'm already actually emailing and meeting with some of the community leaders, and we're finding solutions. So I really look forward to doing this together. I look forward to May 6th, and I look forward to May 7th, moving into City Hall and becoming your next mayor of London. Thank you very much.
Brian mentioned the things I addressed just at the start this evening. We're now going to get the Q&A portion of tonight. If you want to just put your hand up, put a question, I'm calling Nadine with the microphone right here. Can you pass the gentleman over here?
Yes, sir. You just tell me your name as well.
My name's Gary.
Gary, okay, good. Gary, what do you do here in London? Can you tell me
What do I do? Nothing now. No.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Okay.
I'm a singer.
Okay.
I host karaoke in Shoreditch. Used to be in Spread Eagle.
Okay, yeah, I know that.
Shoreditch. Around the corner from Old Street.
Yeah, we're at the roundabout. I've been here for a long time.
I used to host karaoke there, but it's been completely killed since lockdown.
Yeah.
That isn't my passion. I've lived in Tower Hamlets all my life. I ain't going to tell you a whole lie. But I started off as an entrepreneur. I had a market stall in Bethnal Green Market. I met a lot of corruption there from Tower Hamlets Council. And ever since, I've experienced corruption, in particular with children's services. And your wife said ask you the tough questions. Now, I've had 2 children put up for adoption by Tower Hamlets Social Services. Fantastic what you were saying about you adopted your partner's child. I'm not against adoption in the right context. 97% of adoptions in the UK are false adoptions, non-consensual adoptions. Children being taken from loving parents to feed an agenda for adoption companies and local authorities to make money. And I see that from your previous broadcasts, that you're very family orientated and your passion is the family. There needs to be more investment in keeping family together. That is why we've got more crime on the streets, because the father figure's taken away from the house. I was told to do a course in Tower Hamlets called Caring Dads. I applied for Caring Dads, and they said it's only facilitated in Bengali. I said, well, I can't learn Bengali, sorry. The opportunities for parents to keep their children are taken away from them. The court system is corrupt as well. I know you can't do nothing about that. I believe we are suffering a genocide. And children are being forcibly taken away from loving parents and put with foster parents and adoptive parents and taken away from their loving family unit home. And I just want to know if there's anything that the Mayor could do to actually fund courses and interventions to keep families together, to keep these children in their birth family and keep the father in the home. If the father's got an addiction problem or a violence problem, actually provide funding to keep these families together.
So it's a great question, and I appreciate you being honest as well. That's what we do at London Real, be honest and vulnerable. It's the only way we can find solutions. So one of my 12 policies is called Family First, and it is all about the family structure. It's this invisible structure that provides greatness for our cities. And I recently had a guest on my show. His name is Lord Farmer. He actually is in the House of Lords, and he spent most of his time investigating how family structures allow better societies. And one of the things he actually found is that when a family member goes to prison, if you continue family contact, visits, especially for mothers and for fathers as well, it gives them something to look forward to, it gives them a chance to rehabilitate, and just keeping that family structure intact does massive things for the community, for the rehabilitation, for everything. So that family structure you're talking about is crucial. And it's important even when there's issues. And that's why I think sometimes the police need to be better trained, because they come for a domestic dispute and they can take it overboard and they can ruin a family unit that has to be paid for in other places. And Lord Farmer told me on the show, I think it costs £50 billion a year, the lack of family cohesion in this country, because it leads to crime and all sorts of other issues. So it's something we are talking about right now. I actually, about 10 years ago, was a mentor to a 9-year-old boy in Homerton through a group called Chance UK. And he had behavioral difficulties, he had no father in the home, and I was tasked for 12 months to spend time with him every Saturday. And all we would do is just spend time together. He just needed a male role model around him that did the right things, that treated people correctly and made sure he said please and thank you and make sure he looked to the future. And so that family structure is crucial. And the problem I think that we face is that we try to force people into a perfect family structure. And that's wrong. My wife did an incredible job as a single mother. Sometimes families have problems, but you can't throw the whole family out. And sometimes it's an extended family or an uncle or a brother. But to remove that family unit and then just go to strangers, you remove this invisible bond that has tons of value because it makes people do the right thing. When I adopted Gabby, I stepped up and became a better man. I stopped doing stupid things. I started taking more responsibility. So I feel you and I feel your pain. And I think it's 2 issues. First, I think our police and social services need to be better trained. So when you go to a domestic dispute, You find out what's really going on, what's the dynamic. And one of the things that Lord Palmer found out in one of his studies is that you can't just remove someone from the home because of, an argument or even a domestic dispute. You ruin the whole family. You need to try to find a way to rehabilitate that because there's so much value. When you split them up, the father gets depressed. The child has no male figure, and the mother doesn't know what to do. So you're exactly right, you're ruining that. So I think we have to do something like that with our police and our social services. And then the community centers, I think, are super crucial. And finally, I think we need to investigate what you're talking about. The more I learn about politics, the more I don't like it. There's all sorts of strange things going on that don't have anything to do with the people's welfare, with correct financial agendas. There's all these strange things happening. And that's why I think we need an independent candidate to literally shake things up and to come in and say, enough. I mean, last Friday when I was on stage, the mayor of Liverpool got arrested for some housing project or something. I was like, really? That happens in this day and age? I thought that was like 30 years ago when all that nonsense happened. Now, I don't know what's going on there or anywhere else in this city, but when you tell me that there's corruption, I'm listening to you, and I want to find out why. And I also want to find out why, because corruption, it costs us all money and emotions. Corruption never helps. It means someone else pockets something, and it costs the rest of us 10x on the back of that. So all I can tell you is I will investigate it. I've thought about this. The Family First is a big one of our policies, and you can go learn more about that. And I'm working with people like Lord Palmer to find out what can we do to strengthen our families. And I do think we make some of the wrong decisions that you talked about. So I appreciate you talking about this. I think this is something we should talk about more.
What I neglected to mention as well, one of the statistics from the NSPCC.
Yeah, we'll get your microphone right there, just so I can hear it.
One of the statistics from the NSPCC's website, it's been taken down now, but I've still got most of the children that have been through the care system. You'll find that they spend time in prison, prostitution, crime, and they've got a lot less life chances than their peers. So it's damaging the children. They think they're protecting the children, taking them away from a situation in the family home. But in the long run, they're not, because it just ruins the children's lives.
And again, I appreciate that second question. And again, Theresa May stood up in Parliament a couple weeks ago, and she said, it sounds like you're finding the data to fit the policy as opposed to creating the policy that fits the data. And then we see a lot of that. I think we're seeing that here as well. Where's the data that proves this? Oh, it's gone. We're just going to do this because of some other reason. So I think we always need to go back to the data. The data doesn't lie, and we need to make those decisions. And I couldn't agree with you more. The Community First initiative is all about trying to provide those role models. That we pay for this crime. We pay when these young men have nothing better to do. And we pay because they don't have options in the community. And we need those community options because they don't have the male role model in the house. This is such an important point. And again, one final point. It's not just about one role model, it's about multiple role models. And we all are who we are these days, not because necessarily you had a good mother or a good father, but you had other figures, That one teacher, that looked after you, that martial arts coach, the football coach. There was a bunch of other adults, the grandparent, the uncle that spent extra time with you. It's about having all these positive adult role models for our kids. And I think that happens in the community first. So thank you. I'd love to get into details too, so I can find out more about your case and find out what we can do. All right.
But I want to help you as well.
Okay, thank you.
I want to be part of this.
Okay, great. Let's do that. All right. Great. Can I have another question? Please don't be shy. Yeah, there's no point coming here unless you have a question. Yes, you, sir, and then we'll go to you. I'll go you first. Can you just tell us your name and what you do or are used to do in this economy?
My name is, my Buddhist name is Subhara Tara.
Okay.
And I'm Buddhist. And I'm also a therapist, and I had to close down my clinic in Liverpool Street. I was opening a new clinic, moving from Farrington to Liverpool Street. And but I realized that there was this problem with COVID because the Americans decided to stop all the flights.
So you're feeling this direct impact of
yes.
the city shutting down. So the financial services have all told their employees, work from home if you can, don't bother coming back till March. And the mayor said, yeah, do whatever they said.
Exactly.
So your business died.
But my concern is, first I wanted to be a bit nitty and say to you, welcome to the democratic Muslim plantation of Tower Hamlet.
Oh, thank you very much.
And you've got lots of answers, but you also have lots of questions. And I can give you an answer to those questions.
Well, I think it's important to have questions, and as mayor, I'm going to continue to have lots of questions. I don't think the current mayor asks enough questions.
No, it does. And what I'm trying to say is that things are there, they are for a reason. And it's very unfortunate, but there is a parallel economy, which is let's call it Muslim economy, which is actually throughout the Tower Hamlet. They haven't been impacted by the COVID in a way other businesses have been impacted. Because they're very clever with it and they don't actually stick to the rules.
So what's your question or what's your point?
My question on that is, how can you help us with religious freedom? Because we are in a situation where, other people like Buddhists, for instance, are not on an equal ground in Tower Hamlet.
Okay.
And I will say, I can see, like, in your platform...
So you're asking a question about maybe discrimination? Is that what you're asking about?
It's it's not discrimination. It's simply that they don't... the council there is a Muslim council working for Muslim people, and...
Okay, so let me just stop you here. I don't know the situation in Tower Hamlet, so I don't know if that's true. I want to look into that before I trust your assertion on that. So I don't know if that's true. I don't think any council in this city should favor any type of group or person or anything, and I don't know that they do. So first I would look into that.
Yeah.
When it comes to, let me just finish, when it comes to respecting someone's right to free speech and right to religion, yeah. I've spent this entire year on the front lines fighting for free speech. I put my business on the line. I put everything I created for the last 9 years on the line to fight free speech. Some of you know what I'm talking about. I've gone head to head, with trillion-dollar companies. No, I appreciate that. And so I know what you're talking about. I know what it's like to fight for your own freedoms. And this is something we believe in. And we believe in basic human rights, for sure. And this is one of my other platforms that I didn't talk about, is digital freedom of speech. I believe that we should be able to say what we want to say and not be scared of ideas and not protect people from ideas. As long as they don't incite violence and as long as they don't incite overthrows of governments, I don't believe in that, or destruction of property, and I never did. But I appreciate a conversation, and I think everybody should be able to have conversations. And I think everyone has an equal right to do what they want to do in the city. And I think London has a great track record of promoting that. So if there is some issue in any borough where that's not happening, then I want to know about it as mayor.
So
and I want to find out.
My question is, what are you going to do about the corruption in Tower Hamlet? Because
two now with the corruption. So,
because they control the resources and you're on finances, so you're the person that can actually understand it. I know you can understand exactly what I'm talking about, even if you don't have the experience I have.
So let me answer that question for you. Like I said, the more I learn about some of the nuances of politics, the more I don't like what I see. And when I see things that happen in Liverpool, and I hear from you, and I hear from you, and I hear about this quote-unquote corruption that's happening out there, I mean, it literally makes me sick when I hear about this stuff. For me, I'm going in to do things the right way, period. That's it. I want to build houses because we need houses. I want to get London back to work because we need to get London back to work. I just want to do the right things for the right people in the right boroughs. And the thing is, as an independent candidate, I have got nothing to gain and nothing to lose. I am here to do this job for 3 years, and then I'm going to go back to my business. That is quite honestly my plan. To do this, I'm going to take a pay cut. I'm putting my business on hold. I'm going to take more criticism than I imagined, and I got a ton of it this year. Okay? Everybody called me more names than you can even imagine. And it's going to be 10x when the mayor sends his people after me in April. Just you watch. So I don't need to do this job. I'm not doing this for profit. I'm doing this to make this city great because I love this city so much. And I don't think anybody should be getting kickbacks for anything. I think we all want the real and right things to happen. We have digital media these days. Why isn't everything crystal clear and transparent? From our policing to our adoption policies to whatever happening in the council. Everything is now going on Zoom and we can see what people are doing. And I want to dig it all up and open it out into the air. And guess what? 20-some boroughs are controlled by Labour in the city. And we've been already told they're probably not going to like me too much. But guess what? First of all, I want to say to all of them that are listening, some of them might be here, just want to say hi to you. First of all, I'm here to work with you. I want to work with Labour and Conservatives. But it's time to shake things up. It's time to clean house. And it's time to make sure that none of this nonsense happens. You know, the mayor has a £17 billion budget. and yet our community centers are closed, and knife crime is up, and we can't afford police, and our TFL is going bankrupt. Can anyone explain that to me? Where I come from as an entrepreneur, you are fiscally responsible or you're dead. Where I come from in the city, I know what a balance sheet looks like. Where I come from in business, you are held accountable, or guess what? You are sacked. Period. But the more I learn about these politicians, they don't understand that. When the current mayor of London, I just need to go to the next person for a question. When the current mayor of London bankrupts TfL, what does he do? He's not worried about losing his job. As an entrepreneur, what would you be worried about? My business is gone. All of my equity, all of my work is gone. All he does is gets a check from the national government, blames the other party, and knows that you're going to re-elect him. So for me, that all ends. We go in and we cut out all the fat. I mean, there's tons of nonsense going on in the TfL. I won't even get into it. You know, he spent £50 million on coffee machines and taxis and all that stuff. I was talking to Paul about it. So my point is I want to bring light in here. I don't have any party to worry about. I don't have anybody financing me. I am just here to do the best job, period. So again, when you get your contact details, you can give me all the details of what you think is happening here, and I would love to look into this. Tower Hamlets is right down the block. I can be here all the time. So we'll do that. Thank you very much. Just want to get to a few more questions, and we'll wrap this up. Yes, sir. Tell me your name and a little bit about you.
Sure. My name is Balvinder. I'm a tech consultant.
Okay.
I've spent about 15 years working in the city.
Okay.
Some of the biggest banks. But the city and London seem very unrecognisable right now. I take your point about pushing back on the basis of data. You've had some great guests on London Rail, Bits, various doctors, and all the rest of it. Pushing back on data is one thing, but forming a strategy to oppose the ridiculous restrictions you have imposed on us is something else altogether. Can we rely on you to not just say the data doesn't stack up, but also to say none of this makes sense, and help us get back to some sort of normality?
Yeah, so it's a great question. If anyone didn't hear it, it's, you know, he's been watching on Real for a while, so he knows I've been having real conversations with doctors, scientists, and again, these aren't just anybody. These are Oxford, Harvard, Stanford, Nobel Prize winners, and they've told us exactly what is happening and what the issues are and why we're doing the wrong thing, right? How we can get London back to work, how can we use these strategies like focus protection, protect our elderly, but still get the rest of the city back to work. The truth is this, I realized a few months ago that the best way I can do action here is to stop making videos. Because I've made enough of those, I'm being censored on platforms, and there's not much more I can do. Becoming the mayor of London is the way I can make the most change, period. And it's not just about London. If we show this city getting back to work in an intelligent way that uses the science, their own science, you know, against their policies and shows a way we can safely get back to work, I think we can be a model for New York City and LA and all these other places in the world. So honestly, I think, yes, by doing this action, we're going to show everyone how to do it. I'm not running for this job to not do what I've been talking about for the past year. So I want to get London back to work immediately. I've spoken with John Morgan of the Theatres Trust. He said, Brian, we can open the theaters with this social distancing right now, but the mayor won't let us do it. I spoke with the guys that run the tourist bus that go around the city. These are all on my platform for free, by the way, you can watch it. And he said, Brian, we can run the tourist bus. Why don't we do that? I've spoken with the taxi drivers unions. He said, Brian, we need to get back to work right now. I've spoken with leaders in the hospitality industry. They said, this is how we do it, Brian. What are we doing here? And I think we can get London back to work. So yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm here to promise you we're going to get London back to work. But I think this is the best way to do it, honestly, through political means. I don't think there's any other way. We put the information out, the politicians aren't responding. The mayor of London, the current mayor of London, he assumes he's going to get re-elected. He's not going to do anything different. Again, he lobbies for lockdowns, he blames the government, he wants another lockdown now, he'll get a bailout next year. It's not in the interest of any of us from an economic perspective. I want to change all of that, and I will change all of that. And I'll be like one of these other mayors, like in Manchester is the example, where they fight for their citizens. And we actually have the remit to do that here in London. So I'm looking forward to it. They're going to fight, but honestly, you know, I think it's last time we checked, 2 million people in this city watch London Real, right? So these people, they're more in tune than you think. Everybody I meet on the street says, Brian, we hear what you're saying. We believe in freedom of speech. We want you to broadcast, and we want to get back to work. So I think they always say, what is it, 10 or 11% of the population is all it takes to make a change. I think we have that. And me being elected, I can push that through. And that's what I plan on doing. It's not going to be easy. The councils are going to fight us. But if the people are behind us and we have the message, then we can push it through. And if we can expose corruption, and I have no problem exposing anything. I'm the video guy. Let's go talk live on my show. Let's talk, let's ask some questions, right? That's the perfect way to do it. We can shine a light on anything. I'll put my Instagram live and go visit the child services and ask them some questions. Why not? You know, we ask our police officers to wear body cams. Why don't we ask our politicians to wear body cams? Right? That's what this is about, being transparent. That's what I've done for 9 years on London Real. Some of you know more than others. I put my whole life on London Real. I put my failures, my struggles with addiction, my struggles as a parent, my struggles as an entrepreneur. It's all out there. So I think that's the way we need our politicians to be, to tell us how it really is. So I appreciate the question. I know you're frustrated. I'm frustrated too. There's so many people right now that are literally dying. The mental health, we don't know how bad that's going to affect us. They show us the death toll every day from COVID. They don't show us the death toll every day from lockdown. It's probably 10x that. You're like, 10x, that's too much, Brian. Really? 3 million cancer appointments missed this year. 3 million, right? What's happening to our economy? What's happening to the mental health? What's happening to our younger generation? It needs a change, and that's what I'm all about. So I hope that answers your question. We've got time for 2 more. Yes, sir. You've been waiting patiently. Give the mic there, and we'll go to you.
You just touched a nerve there, Brian, when you mentioned cancer.
What's your name?
Phil.
And tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, I'm a television cameraman. I work mainly in sports TV. My 2 main sports are boxing and football, so I know David Hay.
Okay.
I film more fights than anybody on the planet, I think. Operating the main live handheld ringside camera.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's amazing.
Yeah. So there you go.
You must have some of David's sweat on you.
I did the shot with his big toe when he fought Klitschko.
Oh, the broken toe, right?
The broken toe, yeah.
That was you. In the dressing room.
No, it's before this. In the ring, actually, after the fight.
He pulled off the boot.
So, so I got the toe shot. You touched it when you mentioned cancer. 2 years ago, I finished several months, well, it was 8 months of chemotherapy. I had a very aggressive cancer that would have killed me. Within 4 months of that treatment, I kicked its arse. Sorry to swear, but I never once thought it would get me. I had an incredibly positive mindset. So, but I am one of the government that sent me so much information. I'm one of the vulnerable people for COVID, and 4 weeks ago I got COVID. I've never been worried about COVID. I've heard, followed London Real for a long time. I think it's fantastic. I was amazed when you started your run for mayor. I thought, oh my God, you've got some big kahunas, I think.
Just has to be done.
But so I was one of the very, very vulnerable people, and I got COVID, and I'm 65 next year, supposedly very vulnerable. It was miserable for a couple of weeks. It was no big deal. And I think we've shut the country down, we've shut the world down over a nasty bug, basically, that's killing a minute amount of people. And the people I still talk to through cancer websites and what have you, their treatments have been stopped. And my follow-up, every 3 months I'm supposed to have a blood test every 3 months. I don't need it. I know that was a temporary illness for me, cancer. That's all it was. And I know some people don't have such an easy ride as I did. It wasn't easy, to be honest. Lost all the hair, I was weak, but positive mindset, and I got over it. But the whole COVID thing, if you were the mayor of London, and this is about the locking down, what could you do about that? How could you stop it? Because I think it's complete madness what we've done with this lockdown. And I just think it's crazy that as you said, the deaths, not related to COVID per se, but the after effects of it, and the people who've lost jobs, the depression, and not cancer treatment, the heart disease, all of that's not been taken into account yet. And I just think it's been very, very sort of blinkered approach by the scientists. I wouldn't trust them as hard as fit to do that, but they're still to come out. What could you do about a lockdown if you were the man and said, right, look, we need to get the country, the city back to work? How would you do that if the government is saying you can't do that? How would you do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, you're right about some of those numbers, and I've had more discussions than probably most people on this planet with a lot of the top doctors and scientists. I've looked at the numbers. And you're right, when you look at the scientists, on our SAGE committee or whatever, they're really bureaucrats. They actually just tell the government what they want. Or even as Theresa May said, our former prime minister, they find the data to support the policy. That's what it is. And we've seen over and over again, I can give you the details, the Cambridge University study that got us into the last lockdown. Even before the lockdown, it had been disproven, and yet we still went into the lockdown. And again, I am cognizant of the people that have died from COVID, and we should obviously try to protect as many people as possible. But we need the numbers, we need the facts. You're given facts on a daily basis to make intelligent decisions. That's it. You're given facts about the risks of flying, the risks of cancer, the risks of crossing the street, and you make those decisions based on that information. With COVID, it's almost the opposite. We're in an information war. They're throwing numbers at us all the time. They don't really tell us what those numbers are. There's a number published every day, which is daily COVID deaths, which just means that you died with a positive COVID test in the last 28 days. A test that isn't always accurate, but you can literally be hit by a car or be shot by a gun, and you would still be a COVID death. And I could talk your ear off about that. And I had a conversation with a Harvard doctor who was one of the authors of the Great Barrington Declaration. I'm supposed to have Dr. Gupta from Oxford on next week. She's going to come to the studio, one of the other authors, and they've talked about this. He said, we go from a 7-year-old to a 70-year-old, you get 1,000 times more vulnerable when you go out there. So it's basically, and the deaths they're reporting are mostly elderly with conditions. That's really what they are. And yet they present it to you in a way that it's everybody. And so they get us to make these disproportionate responses to the virus, and they shut everything down.
We're not immortal, and people seem to think we are. That's the challenge.
And I think also that's part of our current culture, where people can't say what's obvious. It's a little bit of everything's politically correct. And our current leader is all the way on that side of the spectrum, where you have to always say the right things. We need someone that will give us the hard talk and say, okay, 500 deaths today, but there's actually 5,000 coming down the road if we stay at this. And people have said it's 10 to 1 cost benefit for what we're doing right now, the deaths that are going to come further. Let me talk about your question about what we can do, because it's similar to the question that you had. First of all, I've been doing everything I can do for the past 9 months at London Real. Like I said, we've been very close to being deplatformed from YouTube many times, of which we have 2 million subscribers, 500 million views, and it's most of our revenue. We have been deplatformed from LinkedIn, from Dropbox, from PayPal. I can't remember everybody. Shadow banned by Facebook, by Instagram. They've all thrown us down the hill just because we have talked with real scientists about things we shouldn't talk about. So first of all, censorship is very real. It happens everywhere, including Ofcom in this country censored one of my episodes that was put on a television channel. They've tried to censor us. I don't know if I can say that, but they have. And we've had the big tech companies, which are actually bigger than governments, that are censoring us now. And you say, well, YouTube takes a video down, what's the big deal? The problem is since we're all separated, all of our information is digital information. And you don't know there's a filter on that information. So you never hear about the Great Barrington Declaration, which was this paper. It's on the page 3 of the Google search, and there's an article that debunks it. That's the only search result that comes up. Google isn't a search engine, it's an agenda engine. We all just need to be aware of that. And again, I can talk your ear off about this. We got a documentary film coming out about this, so I'm well versed in that. Censorship is real, and it keeps us from getting the right data and making the right decisions. As far as what I can do as mayor, it's a great question. And I show to you the example of the mayor of Manchester, where here is someone who is standing up against lockdown from the national government, really going toe to toe and saying, we are not going to lock down no matter what you say. We are going to keep everything open. We are going to fight. Now, they went back and forth, and they had an issue there. But as mayor of London, I will fight for our rights. That's what I'm going to say. We have legal courses, we have scientific courses, and we've got one other thing. We've got information. We are one of the greatest publishing platforms there is out there. I put out real scientist information all the time. I can speak to Londoners and say, this is the data here. Why don't you decide? And again, if 9 million people elect me to become mayor, that's a real force. It's a force that's hard to reckon with. You see this in America when a president gets elected on a landslide. When they get in there, they get to all their policies because all the legislators are like, there's not much we can do because the people are behind him. So I really believe we can push back. Now, we can't necessarily stop the national government from doing a decree and all these things, and I would never suggest going down that route, but we can challenge them legally, we can challenge their science, and we can lead from the front and get back to work. And that's what I'm saying, it's a leadership issue. There are always solutions. Like I said, our current mayor could get out to these banks and say, what's it going to take to get 25% of your workforce back? There's always a deal to be cut with these institutions. You're going to be here for the next 100 years. You owe this city. What can we do? What can we do? You can have that conversation, and that has nothing to do with the national government. The city of London, let's be honest, it generates what, 25 to 50% of GDP for the nation? You know, we have a lot of power here. I think it's about time we step up and realize that. You know, people have talked about this before as a mayor, but it's to understand that we have real power. Maybe we also, you know, find our own finances as well. Maybe we raise our own debts, something that London has never done, as opposed to go cap in hand to the government every time we need a bailout, and guess what, it's on their terms. Maybe we raise our own debt. So these are just ideas. I hope they're not necessary. Again, I would always like to solve something with a conversation. And I think we've done a lot this year on London Real with conversations. We've got a lot of people thinking. We've got a lot of people on the streets talking. Now it's time to show with your vote what you really want. And then let's see what we can do. So I hope that answers your question. You know, but we want to find out what we can do. And I stand behind everyone that's been on my platform. It's all out there. So you know the facts. I've had them on my show. I don't agree with everything that my guests say. But that's the point. Let's have an open and honest debate. And that's what I want to do going forward. So, and I really appreciate you. I appreciate your story too. I appreciate your mindset a lot. And you look great for 65. All right, one more question? Okay. You, ma'am, do you want one? You got a question for me too, ma'am. All right, go ahead. Just tell me your name and maybe where you're from or a little bit about you.
Hi, Brian. My name is Hawa.
Okay.
And I was born in London, but I've been in and out of London. Lived in Kent, all around Kent, and back into London again. So I've been in and out. So I'm currently a nurse, registered nurse here in Royal London Hospital, and I've been working there for over a year now. And yeah, it's
Thank you for your service.
Experience.
Seriously, yeah? You're welcome. Thank you.
And I just would like to say thank you so much for your courage and for you doing this, because I know how leadership can be a burden, but I understand that it is fulfilling if you have the right intentions behind it all. So I just want to say thank you so much for really doing this. But my question is, so as our next Mayor of London, would you be able to have access into just transforming the educational system a little bit? Because, you know, I've been to school inside London, outside London. The system is the same, and obviously from the shows, the content that you've been putting out, you've put some amazing people like Robert Kiyosaki, who teaches such great things about financial education and all that stuff that I'm like, I wish we had this in our schools. I don't know if you, as our mayor, would be able to kind of add some of that into, you know, our local schools around here in London, because, I mean, I know a few young people that listen to like Robert Kiyosaki and listen to all these great people and wish they knew the information earlier so that they can, you know, live purposefully. And, you know, I just would love now to have somebody like you to, if you're able to put in the financial education, in the education or in the school system, more financial education and just more education that leads people to live purposefully. And for me, I feel like it's so important for it to start in like the younger years, like even if it's nursery, because I've understood that toddlers, teenagers, they are at their prime mentally and they need solid information then than they do after they reach 25 or 30, because your mind just blocks out. So I just hope and would love to like be a part or just see the financial. Why don't I keep saying financial education?
Maybe you mean it. Financial education is important. So I think I understand your question. I appreciate it. It's a great question. And you know, first of all, does anybody know Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad? Oh my gosh, everyone knows him. I love Robert. He calls me sometimes. He calls me from different countries he's in, and he's a big supporter. His wife Kim is amazing as well. We have an episode with Kim Kiyosaki on our platform as well. We've had Robert on the show, I think, 3 times, and Kim once as well. You know, I'm actually in the education business. That's really what we do here at London Real. We broadcast out people's ideas, but they're always put in that story form. You know, when Robert Kiyosaki tells you about his rich dad in Hawaii and his poor dad in Hawaii, I mean, I reread that book about a year and a half ago when I flew out to Arizona to interview Robert. It was that interview we did in that kind of big studio with the white stuff behind us. And I reread the book, and it was just genius, because it's storytelling. that teaches you about your relationship with money. They don't teach about money in schools, and Robert talks about this. They don't teach about money in schools, maybe for a reason. I'm in the digital education business. I've run the London Real Academy now for 6 years. Again, over 5,000 graduates, 107 countries. I've had 14-year-old students all the way up to 85-year-old students. A 14-year-old girl was in Hawaii, the 85-year-old was in Brazil. I literally have people from 14, 15 time zones on my digital call. Every Tuesday night, I'm teaching. So I know this space. And I also know the current state of our Victorian education system. Does everyone know what I'm talking about? Where you get there, and you have to sit in class, and you have to learn these things, right? If you look at the history of that, that was built to create workers. It was actually built for the kids of the workers so you could keep them near the working site. And what did they want? They wanted their kids to become workers. It's so antiquated. And that's why I think London Real has been successful, because even adults are drawn to these incredible ideas, and let's be honest, told by incredible people. It's always the Kiyosaki that gets you interested because he tells you in the right way. And it's always, this person and this person. It's the professional boxer that gets you to think about something, or the person that just ran 100 miles in some ultra marathon, and did it on a vegan diet. You're like, all right, I want to listen to what you have to say. And I've had all of these crazy people come on my show, and I made documentary films with some of them. So I've actually got one of my 12 policies is education first. And I've thought long and hard about how we can digitize our education system. And the truth is a lot of you just heard about Zoom this year. I've been using Zoom for 6 years inside the London Real Academy. I know that software, inside and out. Now they've updated it recently because it's gotten popular, but we've been using it for digital education. And I could talk your ear off about digital education, but it requires community, it requires great messaging, but it's a new way of teaching. And it's got to be embraced by our younger generation. And you made a great thing about age. When I did the mentorship program for that boy in Homerton, he was 9 years old. And I remember when I got the brief, and they told me his background, I was working in the city at the time, and I wrote back and I said, 9 years old. I said, isn't that a bit young? And they said, no, that's a bit late. These kids have already learned their habits by 6 and 7 years old. They've learned their relationship with money. They've learned things about crime. They've learned things about how things work, who the cool kids are on the block. They're the ones that do this, that get this. And it's all about that early education system. So I'd like to transform it, much the way we've done with London Real Academy, and show them what we've done with digital education. The problem now is what they're doing is they're taking the lessons and they're sticking them on a Zoom call. The kids don't want to know, they don't want to care. It's not the same thing. You've got to find a way to hold them accountable, to get them interacting, and I think we know how to do it. So it's something I've talked about, it's something I've outlined, it's one of the many things we have to do. But again, I'm coming at this from an education perspective. That's why I can help business, because I'm an entrepreneur, and that's why I think I can help education, because I am an educator at the end of the day. So it's a great point. Robert Kiyosaki's ideas about money are absolutely transformational. I mean, it's absolutely transformational. People make themselves poor, is what Robert says. No one ever talks about that. You might get in trouble for saying that, And Robert says it's in your mentality, the way you think about yourself, the way you think about money is the reason you are in that situation. Imagine if we could introduce that to our children. That's money. What about health? What about fitness? One of my policies is health first. Why do we wait until we're 65 years old and then go to the NHS and say, I'm overweight, I have heart disease, I've been smoking all my life, and I'm this, fix me. That's going to cost 100,000 pounds. Why don't we educate them with exciting, engaging people that teach them about diet, about exercise? I learn all of this from my guests. I move every single day now. I meditate every single day. I do all of these practices because I learn. So I want to introduce all of this. I've got some big ideas around this. I actually want to see if we can broadcast some of these messages to London and get these out there, the things you're talking about. So I hope that answers your question. Really good point that you make, and I think we can do a lot with digital education. And again, this is what we do. I think a lot of our skills as a media company are going to transform the way we govern as mayor. That means the transparency, that means the digitization of education, and that means all these early adoption practices for health and for science and what we're doing right now. So that's a long answer, but I appreciate your question. And I appreciate your energy. You've got really good energy. Everyone's got good energy. So I think that's it. All right, we're probably done with the Q&A. I just want to say again, I really appreciate everyone being here. And again, I appreciate our key workers, our nurses, our teachers, our police officers, our firefighters. So thank you so much for doing what you're doing. A lot of what I do is always looking at it through the lens of you, whether that's housing, whether it's the economy and everything. So thank you. Again, I appreciate all of you for being here. I know you have better things to do tonight than this. I've got to get a mic, and I think we're out of time. You can ask me upstairs. We're doing a Q&A upstairs. So I just want to say thank you. I'm sure you have better things to do tonight than come here. I'm sure Netflix had something cool on, but you all came out. And again, I would love for you to join me with this. I'd love for you to work together with me. Please give me your details to Paul, and I'd love to start chatting with you. Again, brianformayor.london has all this information. You can volunteer. You can do all of that stuff. And again, we've got 146 days left, but we plan on being your next mayor of London. We're all going to move into City Hall together. We're going to do this right. I really believe we can do this. This is probably our one chance. It's probably our one chance in probably the next 10 or 20 years, I think, to make this change in the city. And we plan on doing it. So thank you very much.